Hello there, and welcome back to MixStream. We're now at episode 25 already. How's everyone doing? First of all, thank you if you are joining this for the first time, right? A warm welcome to my channel. On Fridays, this is our program. This is my program. This is called MixStream, where I showcase right either a local band or a regional band, right, that I'm working on, and I showcase the mixing process of the song. Okay, now some of the songs are projects that have been recorded here. Some are tracks which have maybe been recorded elsewhere but sent over to me for me to mix lah. So this is the main program, right? Pretty much the main content of the my entire Studio 2105 channel. If you are new and if it's the first time here and if you are not a subscriber yet, I do encourage and highly recommend and suggest that you go and click on the subscribe button. Become a subscriber today, okay? I really appreciate it, right? I really appreciate the support, okay? This channel has been up for like about a year, and as you can see, this is episode 25 already, and it's been super amazing, right? Now, the support that's been coming from all of you who subscribe to the channel, every one of you, if whether or not you are artists or musicians or bands that I've worked with, right? Or just folks or viewers in general who are interested in recording, mixing, mastering, any sort of topics related to music production, right? Super, I really appreciate it. Okay, so hey, first of all, there is a live chat going on. So if you are watching this right now, please don't be shy, okay? Right? Say hi, let me know where you're coming from. How's the audio, right? Now, throughout the whole live stream, I will be taking questions. So if you see something or if you have any questions for myself or the featured artist, okay, for the band, don't be shy, okay, right? Please leave them down in the live chat section, and I will get to it as soon as possible. Now, when I'm mixing, I can't be looking at the chat all the time, but right, occasionally from time to time we take little stops, and I'll check on the live chat that's going on now. All right. So we've got a lot of concurrent viewers there, but come on, folks, don't be shy, right? Say hi, let me know. Sudah makan belum? Have you all had your dinner already? And I really thank you, and I do appreciate that you join for this little program, this little live stream here. Because on a Friday night, there's so many other things to do. There's so much other content that's out there. But right, I really do appreciate that you decided to take your time, right, to tune into this live stream. Now, I hope I'm gonna make it worthwhile for you, because one of the main goals of MixStream is to feature local music. Now, there's so much music that we listen to out there, and there's a lot of work and a lot of effort and man hours and woman hours as well that's been put into the creation of the favorite songs that we listen to. Yet, sometimes we just, kind of pay only passing attention to all this music. And it starts from the songwriting, from the musicians, from the lyrics, to the artists and the bands rehearsing the songs, coming up with the demos, working on the music arrangement, going into the studio, recording. What you're going to see right here, this is only the mixing process, which is only a small slice of the entire production process, okay? So hopefully, all right, letting you have a glimpse, right, and over-the-shoulder look, right, per se, all right, of how I mix a track will kind of give you a better appreciation of how much work and effort has gone into this, okay? So without further ado, now I'm going to introduce the band to you, okay? Let me introduce if you've been watching this, okay? And obviously from the title, the band, right, is called Nammaslay, right? So they are a Tamil fusion hard rock band, okay? So really awesome. I had the opportunity to meet these guys and work with them, and super cool bunch of guys, man. And so this is their debut single, right? Titled Phoenix. This is a hard rocking track, really awesome. Love the energy behind it. Now, if you want to follow the band Nammaslay, their social media, they are on Instagram. I suggest that you go and check it out, okay? Details, links are all in the description below. And obviously, when the actual single, when they come up with a music video and all that, when all of that comes out, go and follow the band lah, right? So, well, what are we gonna do now? Okay, let's see. Oh, before I forget, okay, right? And I don't want to talk too much. Before I forget, one of the aspects of the MixStream show, right? This MixStream program that you're watching right now, or perhaps you're watching this in a replay later on, right? In another day. One of the aspects is that if you want to support the channel and if you want to support the artists, okay, the independent artists, okay, you can do so by subscribing and signing up to become a patron, right? So you take a look at the text that's on the top of the screen, right? So I suggest if you want to support financially, if you want to like chip in and give a little bit of support for the artists, head on down to the website www.patreon.com/studio2105. Now here's how it goes. When you sign up for the Patreon subscription, there are lots of perks and benefits. Okay, I won't spend so much time explaining and describing what those perks and benefits are. Right, you guys check it out at the website. And once you sign up, right, depending on what tier you are, drop a message with the code MixStream25. Okay, MixStream25, so that I'll know that your subscription or your contribution is going to go towards the band. Okay, it's going to go towards the support of the band. So what happens is that 50% of the revenue from this live stream is going to go to the featured artists, right? The other 50%, of course, would go to help the creation of more content on this channel like this, okay? I got loads of other videos, every week I do a weekly update. I do live Q&As as well, tutorial videos. I have a whole music production workshop module series on my channel as well. So, all right, you have time, please do check it out after this. So, without further ado, let's get into it lah, okay? All right, so now, first things first, let's take a look at the big picture, okay? I always call this, we want to go into what I call the discovery and the framing, right? So we want to, how do we do discovery and framing, right? We do that by pulling up a rough mix of the song. Let's take a look at the tracks. You have all the drums here, kick, snare, hat. Now, one thing about the drums, these drums were actually programmed, okay? Because unfortunately now in the times of when we recorded this, we were actually under MCO, Movement Control Order. So, it was hard for the band to get together to rehearse. It was hard for the drummer to come in the studio and all that. So what we did was we, programmed the drums. So these drums were programmed using SSD5, Silver Slate drums, SSD5, bass, and everything else, of course, we recorded in here in the studio. So there's drums, bass, guitars, right? Two different types of guitars. You got a rhythm guitar, and you have some leads and solos, some keyboards, and of course the vocals down here, right? So pretty straightforward, like a 4-piece, five-piece band with some keyboards and synths. So during this discovery stage, we want to pull together a rough mix, and of course all of this I've already done before that, right? So let's take a quick listen and have an overall look. Okay, we want to take a listen to the overall balance, roughly where everything should go, where everything should roughly sit, right? So the rough mix is a very, very important stage of the discovery and framing. So let's take a listen. In the meantime, once again, if you're watching this, please say hi in the chat. Don't be shy, right? Type inside the chat and let me know that you are watching, okay? So let's take a listen to the rough mix. We start with guitars and some keyboards. Then the riff comes in. Intro solo. Vocals. First verse. Pre-chorus. Second verse. Second pre-chorus. It's a secondary line that comes in every time. And then we hit into the chorus. The lead vocals are doubled, left and right, for dynamics. Into a bridge. Excuse me. A little interlude. And then it goes into solo. We got some strings coming in here. Awesome. Play the chorus. Right, okay. And the outro. And a tight ending. Alright. So that's the rough mix of the song. Now it's very important, right, to put a rough mix together so that it gives me you an overall picture, right, of what the track is, where the parts come in, what the whole structure is. You need to have a good awareness of what the song is all about. So, once that is done, okay, first things first, let's get on down with actually mixing the track, okay? We'll start first of all. Now, if you are a regular viewer to my channel, you would already know what's up already lah and what I'm going to talk about. So first thing is that it's very important to always set your initial levels, to get your initial level, okay? What I mean by that is that so that every time when you mix or every time when you work, you sit in front of your speakers, you sit in front of your monitor speakers, or even if you're monitoring on your headphones, you are going to be listening to, you are going to be working at a consistent and a calibrated volume level. Now, I try to aim so that I get a work roughly at about 85 dB SPL. This is recommended because this is the SPL level, the sound pressure level. That's recommended because that's kind of where your ear's frequency response is the flattest. So every time, all right, I will work at that same volume level. So every time I mix, my frequency response, right, of my ears is going to be same. It's going to be consistent. So it just it just ensures that you're going to hear things consistently when everything is calibrated. So that's really important. So whenever I do that, my volume level on my master level, on mixer, on everything is all calibrated to certain levels, and so that I know I'll be working on that level, okay? But that's only one part of the solution, the puzzle. How do I make sure that I'm working on this calibrated level? Okay, very easy. What I do is I use the kick drum. So what I aim for, okay, is I aim to have my kick drum peak at about minus 12 dBFS, right, which is decibels full scale. Inside digital, okay, this is the units and the metering that we refer to is dBFS, okay. Now, don't be confused with the different types of decibels. That's beyond the scope of this. It's covered in my workshop and my videos and my YouTube channel. Go and check it out lah. So what I'm going to do is I am going to set the kick so that it will, right, target and it will peak at about minus 12 dBFS. Okay, so later on I'll show you this. Okay, so meaning here minus 12 dBFS, I want this to peak at about here lah. So here we go. Let me set it. Now you might not be able to see this because I am running on a dual monitor setup. Okay, so let's pump this kick drum up first. Okay. Okay, let's see, where are we? That's a little bit more than that. Let's back it off. Let's put at about minus 13. Okay, cool. So let me pull this out. So take a look at the peak. So it's peaking the kick drum down the master at minus 12.3. Okay. All right. So bear in mind a couple of other things. Let me show you as well. Right, on my stereo bus, I already have, right, some of my master bus processing already on it, right, such as the AUC's AEQ. I have a Wave C4, I have a couple of master bus compressors. All this is already engaged. I won't go into detail, okay, because again, this is a video that's already on my channel, right, my Cubase project template. So that will, if you want to find out a little bit more detail about all the plugins that I use here in the stereo bus, right, great, do check out that video. So I make sure that these are all turned on before I dial in and set my initial level. So there we go. Let's start with the kick drum first of all. Okay, so let's say I will probably want a high pass about 20. So let's just listen to kick. Okay, there's quite a bit of room and ambience in this sample, okay, because this is, right, taken from SSD5. I kind of want to, right, instead of using gate, right, because gate sometimes can be a little bit unnatural because it slams it, use a, you know, a transient shaper or an envelope shaper, and this is built into Cubase already. I just want to cut down the sustain, okay, of the kick drum. So attack, just leave it there. So it's the release. So let's bring the release down. Okay. So see, it sounds a bit tighter. In fact, I'll just go all the way, man. Okay, so let's listen to without. You can hear it's a little bit more roomier. Okay, with the release down, it becomes a lot tighter. Okay, okay, let's work on the EQ a little bit. Okay, so there is a little bit of boxiness, so let's check it out. All right. At about 230. Well, my color scheme popped up just now. Bypass. So this is the boop, 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 boop around that register. Okay, I'm gonna do a little cut here as well. Okay, I'm hearing something that's around 100, between 100 and 110. Okay, so that's a bit of a resonance there. Okay, and this is actually more of the first harmonic, the octave that's above the fundamental. So the kick drum here is probably having a fundamental of about 50 hertz, between 50 to 60. So that's why we're getting, right, an octave above at about 100, between 100 and 110 lah. So this helps to clean this area up as well. That's why I'm making the cuts there. Okay, so here we go. Now there's one more higher nasal-ish kind of a. There you go, at about 460. It's a bit slightly nasal. And there we go. Let's bypass the EQ. See, this is rather boxy sounding, book, book, book kind of a sound. And this is much tighter, okay? A much tighter sound. Okay, so, right. Now, usually on every track, I will always use tape and console emulation. I'll show you right on the other tracks later on. But on these drum tracks, you don't see them yet because when I bounce it down, I already bounced it down with those plugins active already, okay? But I'll show you that in a little while. So I don't like to use compression on the close mics, but I will, right, engage, right, a little bit of limiting, a little bit of clipping. So here we go. This is not much, just to shave off the very, very tops. And that's it. I'll just touch it just a tiny bit. Okay? That's all. That's all that's needed. Right, so let's move on. What is next? Okay? Now, sometimes most folks would kind of work from left to right. Kick, snare, hi-hat, toms, and all that. I don't. Alright? I like to work my mix on the drums from a top-down aspect. So very early on, once I've set the initial levels for the kick drum, I will balance everything relative to that, and we'll start with overheads. Okay. Okay. Nice. Okay, you know the kick drum actually you can hear is even slightly saturated already, but you know, it's something that's cool, that's desirable, alright? Later on in the context of the whole mix, the saturation is going to be really, really beautiful. Okay, that's it, alright? So that's the overheads. So let's check. So the overheads are gonna go, let's still route it to an overhead group lah. Okay. Let me sort of rearrange this guy over here so that we can see it. Okay. Alright, sending it to a group. So I have the Aosis de-esser. Okay, this is one of my favorite plugins to sort of soften and to massage the high end on the cymbals just a little bit. Okay, let's check it out. Alright, just a little bit. Very good. Okay, cool. So this is pretty much just the overheads. You're not even putting in the close mics yet, okay? So, kick, overheads, the room. Let's bring the room in a little bit later. Let's move in now with snare drum. Okay, snare drum. Okay, very cool. It's a little bit of high pass. So it's got a bit of ring inside it, but it really doesn't bother me that much. Okay, this is more, you know, this is more of a rock song, and sometimes the ring is perhaps what we want. You see, we don't really want something too tight. We want it to sound a little bit bigger, because if I were to really choke out all of that ring, sometimes it can get a little bit, you know, a bit choked lah, so to speak. So this one just allows you to breathe a bit more. Check the face. Yep. Yep. More bottom end that way. Right, okay, sweet, super sweet, okay? Now, it's because this was using a SSD 5, it already sounds great on the go, so there's really not much of processing that is needed to be done. Right, just balance, a little bit of EQ, right, just to make some space here and there, and that's it, okay? Okay, let's check out the hi-hat. Very, very clean sounding. Okay, so now what are we missing? The toms. Let's bring in the toms, okay? Here we go. Okay, once again, let me bring this tom group down so that it's kind of easier for you guys to see. All right. So all the toms are going to be going into this group. So let's just keep playing. Okay, right. So now with programmed drums, sometimes it can sound a little bit too clean, a little bit disjointed. So later on, I will probably use the room track to kind of glue it back together. So this is where it's gonna come into play. Let's check out the room first of all. Okay, very cool. Let's take out some of the bottom end. And what I'm gonna do is I am going to run it through the smasher. So this is pulsar smasher. So what I'm gonna do is let's just really aggressively try and compress the room, okay? Let's go with. So it's almost distorted. Let's bypass. You can hear it's almost distorted. Let's bring it up to. Let's roll off a bit more but bottom end. And let's just blend it in and see. That's a bit too much. Just back it off. Yo, it's really nice and raw and aggressive. They're all distorted. Okay, let's blend it depth down. All right, okay, really cool. Okay, so with the room heavily compressed like that, it's actually bringing out all the ambience, right? Bringing out all the low level detail, so that serves to enhance it even more. But I feel like you probably just need to back it off a little bit more. Okay. Okay, right. You can hear the crunchy. It's all distorted at the background. Now, in isolation, it sounds in solo, like right now, which is just the drums alone, it can sound a little bit weird, but again, very important. We always have to mix and listen in context, so we'll check it out a little while later, okay? Let's go back now. Now, with the overall, let's go with the overall drum sound. So, let's go into check out the drum bus. Let's turn on this, right? And I'll show you guys a little while later what I mean by the tape and the console emulation. So here we go. Ooh, instantly. Okay. Now let's back off the attack a little bit. Let's let the snare come through. In fact, let's go with 1 millisecond, okay? Let's let the snare cut through as much as possible. Okay, let me think. I feel like the snare could use a little bit more bite and, right? What I've been using quite a lot recently is this guy over here. This is the Black Box by Analog Design, okay? The HG2. So let's just see how it goes, okay? Ooh, again, this is a saturation. It's a saturation distortion box, right? And immediately you can see it's just driving up the harmonics. It's really helped the snare drum cut through. Let's bypass without, just to make sure we get the same volume level. So this is clean. So it's bringing out all that extra harmonics, making it a little bit brighter. Okay, so okay, again, might sound a little excessive for now, but once in context with everything else, it might just fit right now. Okay. Okay, now, so that's it. That's pretty much the drums. Uh, I may add a little bit of reverb later on, but perhaps let's just do it right now. Okay, let's just do it right now. So what am I going to use for reverb? Reverence, right? So reverence is a convolution reverb. What it does is it uses impulse responses, so you can simulate actual physical spaces. You can simulate settings on outboard hardware equipment. So let me just import one of these. Let's go into my IR reverb library. This is, by the way, if you sign up for my email list, you can get access to my IR reverb library and the snare drum library. Okay, so let's look for it. Where is it? SIR impulse responses. Now let's go with the good old Yamaha SPX 990 snare plate. So probably not for the snare. I will use it on the toms. Let's see. Okay, reverence. Let's look for a spot where there's toms. Okay, let's go again. One more time. That little tom feel. Yeah, okay. That gives a bit more front and back to the toms lah, okay? Okay. I may or may not add it to the snare later on, but let's see lah, okay? Again, we need to listen to everything in context with the rest of the drums before I make that decision, okay? Okay. Okay, there's the right symbol. Let me just check. There we go. Okay, so that's the drums. Moving on to bass. Okay, so here's what I'm going to show you by what I mean by the tape and console emulation. Let me load it up real quick. Okay, so first things first. Since we're working nowadays in pretty much the digital domain, all right, somehow we are still have a little bit of that. We find the analog sound and the characteristic. A lot of our favorite records that we've listened to, right, the best-selling ones, a lot of them were recorded or mixed on large format analog consoles, and unfortunately, right, obviously I don't have the budget for one, but in order to sort of get a little bit of that analog flavor back into our digital recordings and mixes, right, that's where these plugins come into handy. So let me show you. First thing I have here, this is called Virtual Tape Machines by Slate Digital. So this is as if you were emulating that the signal has been recorded, right? The track was recorded on, in this case, 2-inch 16-track on an analog tape machine, right? Then it's followed up by this guy. This is the Virtual Mix Rack, and there are two plugins here. But the first one, this is called Virtual Channel. What this does is that it's emulating the signal flow going into a channel of an analog console. Okay, I have the setting here to USA, which is the API. That's my favorite, but they have others as well. SSL 4000G, Neve, Trident, RC Tube, and vice versa. Okay, basically these 6 different flavors of analog consoles. Now coming out this, going into this next, this is FG73. This is a emulation of the Neve 1073 preamp. So, right, this is as if you're coming off from a tape machine, going into a channel of an analog console through the mic pre of a Neve 1073. Okay, so you are injecting that flavor into your digital audio. So this is what I start off with. Okay, so we are going to go into the bass. So there are 2 tracks for the bass. This is the bass DI, right? So this was recorded with the bass going into a radial JDI. Okay, and the next one here, this is called the bass TH. TH is just short for tone hammer, because what I do is I record using 2 different DI boxes. One, the JDI, which is super clean, and the tone hammer, which is, with a lot of character in it. Let's check it out. All right, let's check the just the DI JDI track alone. Okay, so pretty much straightforward, clean. This was a Fender Fender Precision, all right, for precision bass. Let's listen to the tone hammer. Okay, so the tone hammer is a lot more scooped, much more scooped kind of a sound. Okay, but what I want to do is I probably don't want to take out too much of the bottom end from the tone hammer. Right, so maybe at about 150, okay? Okay, here we go. Let's check it out. Let's flip the face. The bass almost disappears, man. So, I mean, not the bottom end, but the upper mids. So let's flip this back on. Okay, now, when I've recorded here, because this was done with both DIs, this is pretty much right in phase, okay? So I don't need to check out the, use the phase correction tools to check it out. So let's take a look at this. It should be pretty much, yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's pretty much in phase, you can see. All right, the waveforms of the top and on the top of the bottom for the JDI and the tone hammer channels are pretty much all right, coherent lah. Okay, so they're all nice and coherent. Okay, you have to be careful if you're using a mic and a DI because there will be slight time differences lah. So here we go. So the bass is also going into a group. Let me just kind of pull the group down here so you can see what's in the group. La da da. Okay. Now, I actually kind of have some stuff running already, so let's check out what was I messing about with. Okay, right. I was trying to do some little spin down effect on the bass actually. So let's keep this here, okay? Because this might come into handy later on. Okay, so let me just run through you. So both these bass tracks, okay, let me just quickly link them. And let me just do copy this over first. All right, and just link. Okay, link selected channels. Link selected channels. Okay, all right. You've been wondering why is there 4 tracks of bass? Now it's not really 4 tracks. It's just that in the choruses we kind of layered one extra low note underneath it. Okay, right. Da 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 da. And let's go with the bass. Okay, I see some folks in the chat. Okay, awesome, man. Okay, don't be shy, guys. All right, if you are watching this right now, please do say hi in the chat. Let me know where you are watching from. Where are you from? You know, you like get to know the band. Right, Ram from the band is actually here in the live chat as well. You have questions for the band. You want to find out a little bit more. Right, get in touch with them lah. Okay, all right. Okay. I'll cover and look into some of the chats right after I finish the bass. Okay, so where are we right now? Okay, cool. So first things first, let me show you. First thing I have here, this is Waves C4. This is the multi-band compressor. But what I'm doing here is I'm only using the first band, okay? Right, the other 3 bands here are all bypassed. They're all switched off. What this is doing is that this is just controlling the very bottom end. I'm only compressing the super low lows and keeping it nicely under control, right? The reason I would do this instead of doing a overall compressor, which comes later on, is because I don't want the low end to work the compressor too hard, because in that case you might end up a little bit of pumping. Okay, so right, helps control the extreme bottom end right first before right the other compressors to follow. So let me just turn this down a bit more. Let me just solo it. See, so it's all the lowest frequencies lah. Okay. Okay. Now the next thing I have here, this is Surfer EQ Boogie, right? So this is an intelligent EQ. What it does is that you can track the frequencies that's within the waveforms. Yeah, I play it for you and then you see what happens. Okay. See, it moves, right? And here what I've dialed this to is I've dialed it to the fifth harmonic, which is usually about oh, hang on a second. Where's that sound coming from? I think it's coming from my laptop. Let me just mute it for a second, okay? All right. Oh, it's coming from my phone, so it's super confusing because now I'm listening to audio from here and also my phone. Okay. Now here we go. So what this does is that, so let's listen. Let me highlight this. Let's boost this up so you can hear what is this harmonic I'm talking about. So that is actually a major. It's not exactly a major third lah. It's actually, technically speaking, a 9th, 10th, 11th, 9th, 10th, a major 10th, which is one octave, and then you add a major third on top. So in a minor key, that was going to sound funny because your harmonic that's being generated by the bass, suggests a major chord, but this is, of course, right, a song that's in minor key. So this is very useful. This will help to attenuate that particular frequency, right? Just to scoop it up, and it will track it in real time. Super handy. Okay, here we go. All right, nice. So next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull in the 1176, one of my favorite compressors for bass. So I think I've already kind of dialed this in during the recording session. So let's just go with it, okay? All right, obviously I brought it down a little bit, so let's just dial it in a little bit more. What are we hearing? Oh, the right cymbal. That's why I can't got the right cymbal still playing in the background. Huh? Okay, let me just route this properly to the drums first, okay? Here we go. I feel this could be a little bit more aggressive, right? Let's drive it a little bit harder. Okay, all right. So let's check it out in context with the drums. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, I feel like I probably got to add a little bit of grit later on. Let's see how it goes now. Okay. Okay, next thing I have, this is Bass Rider. So Bass Rider is also another one of these newfangled plugins. What this helps to do is really even out the notes of the bass. Okay, now it's different from compressor. This is actually as if, because what a compressor does is that it will use gain reduction to compress the audio, in this case the bass. What Bass Rider does, and later on the Vocal Rider you see does the same thing as well, it actually has a look ahead. It looks ahead at the audio, and then you'll anticipate the level changes accordingly. Okay, so this is what you see when it's doing. Right, I just set the range and just set the target, and it will, right, the plugin will keep the bass at around that target level. Right. See, it jumps up and down. All right, okay, here we go. Okay, let's move on. Let's chunk in next one, MV2. MV2 is one of my favorite plugins also. It will help to bring out a little bit more of the low level detail. So let me just bump this up. Brings out a lot of the grit out of it actually. So that's really, really nice. Bypass. And also just makes it a little bit more even as well, okay? So, that's pretty much the bass actually. So, let me just take a quick look at the chat and we have 217. 217. Awesome, man. Apa khabar, guys? Nice to meet you. Siapa yang handle the account ni? Fig ke? So, 217 says, hello Namaslay. Nice piece of artwork you guys got there. And hello JD, it's been a while. Hope you're all well. Thank you guys. Yes, I'm really, really well, doing fine. 217 are a band all the way from north up in Kedah. Hope you guys are staying safe and everything is okay dekat Kedah. These guys were actually featured on a previous episode of MixStream, alright? So I actually mixed one of the tracks early on last year. So, right, again, go and check it out, okay? It's down on my channel. So, thank you so much. And again, if you're watching this, remember, if you're not subscribed, if you're watching this, right, if you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe to the channel. If you want to support, right, the featured artists, right, please go and sign up and become a patron, right? The details are all up on top of the screen, lah, okay? So, cool. So, that's the base. And let's move on first, okay? There's a saying that I always say, set and don't forget. So you work quickly, you dial in your tones, dial in your sounds, but it's sometimes hard to judge what needs to be done because you haven't pulled the entire mix together yet. So let's just leave it what it is. I've got a feeling that maybe I want to run the bass through something with a little bit more character as well, maybe a bass sim, but I'll do it later once all the guitars are in, okay? Because sometimes you never know. That's just the missing ingredient. So let's go with the main distortion guitar. So let me rearrange again the groups. All right. So there are two groups of tracks here. So the first one, this was all recorded via the amp, and there's another set here. Right, was recorded via DI and run through an amp sim. So all of these are actually all with the same performance. Obviously, it's double track, left and right. But what I do is I will split the signal. Right, one will go and be recorded into the DI, and the other one goes into the amp. So even from the amp alone, there are total of 4 tracks because I have 2 mics on each on the amp. The 160 is the Bayer Dynamic M160, it's a Reuben. And the distortion, this is an Audio Technica ATM650 lah. So that's a dynamic mic. So I have these 2 mics on. So let's take a listen to the guitars, alright? Nice. All right, very, very cool. So these sounds are really pretty much very close to what we want it to sound like because this is already dialed in. Let's go first of all with the amp sound. So let me just mute the VSTs. So this was recorded using the right. This was into the Laney amp, and I don't remember whether this was using a pedal or not, and I can't remember, man. Ram, maybe you can refresh my memory. I can't remember whether did we use the pedal that you were using. Okay, I can't remember. Was the Boss Overdrive the multi overdrive pedal, right? Okay. Anyway, cool. Right. So first things first, let's drop in the same thing. Okay, the tape and console emulation plug-ins, okay, just to give it a little bit of that saturation going on there. So this is all very subtle. The tape, the tape and the console emulation, right? It's not meant to give a drastic difference. Actually, it is if you listen to it. You know, it makes everything a little bit fatter, okay? But it's not a huge thing that, oh, you instantly do it and then suddenly everything becomes magically beautiful, okay? It doesn't work that way, okay? Okay, so let's check this out. Just take out a little bit of the bottom end. See, just something at 1.7. That's all. Okay, I don't feel that there's much needed to be done. Okay, now let's move on to the DI guitars. Now, actually, so what I decided was that the balance of this guitar was gonna go pretty much towards the DI and the VST amp sounds. Okay, and let me just show you very quickly what I was using. This is the amped Roots, right? So this one, I think you can get it for free. You can actually download this. So this was a this is a really good sounding. So I love to use this one if we're going for the more metal and high gain sounds. So let's take a quick listen to this. Yeah, that is awesome. Okay, and again, honestly, you really don't need much. Okay, you really don't need much. I will quickly just drop in, as usual, I will drop in the tape and console emulation over here. Now this one I got to do it manually, because otherwise if I put the what is it, if I use a preset, it will erase the amp sim. So let's just do this manually. Here we go, virtual mix rack. Okay, and then when virtual mix rack comes up also, right, by default, because it comes up with all this stuff. Okay, USA PI, FG73, set to about virtual drive of 50. Okay, just to give it a tiny, very subtle amount of grit here. Okay, now this one, am I using the same preset? Yes, I am. So let's just copy it over. All right, save some time. Okay, very cool. Now let's see. Now I've actually got them all linked up as a VCA, but let me think about it. Maybe I want to just give a little bit of bite to the distortions. Let me just check. Okay, let's check the phase first of all. Let's flip it. Okay, definitely sounds better. Okay, cool. Now, just needs a little bit of a bite, and I would use, let's see, what can we use to add that, all right? The one I love to use is the 2098. So let's just chuck that in, okay? Just to give it a little bit of that extra sheen to the guitars, okay? Just 1 dB, that's all. Bypass. Right? Just that little bit of polish to that guitar. Okay, now again, now that I'm a little bit more informed, I have now the distortion guitars along with the bass. Now it feels that I don't really need to, just now when it was just the bass alone, I was tempted to run the bass through an amp sim. But now when you have a little bit more information, you have a little bit more, right, knowledge on what the other parts are contributing to the overall mix, right? It helps to inform not only future decisions but past decisions as well. So I think now that, okay, in that case, the bass would function perfectly fine, clean. Okay, it doesn't really need to be dirtied up any further, right? Cause all of that, the grit and all the dirt's already being delivered by the distortion guitars lah. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Let's go with the guitars. So now we actually, right, layered this guitar here using a telly, right? So on some of the parts, we wanted to just make it a little bit fatter, a little bit bigger, but right. Ram only had one guitar. The guitarist only had one guitar that he was using. So I suggested that instead of using that same guitar, that we try and use a different guitar instead, right? So I pulled up one of the tellies that I have and used that to record. So the reason being is that if you are going to layer a lot of stuff, if you use back the same instrument, same pickup configuration and everything, what happens is that instead of getting the separation and the bigness and the extra texture and extra layer, they tend to just mask each other, so you don't really hear it. It just gets a little bit more muddier, a little bit more. You can't get the separation out of it. So let's check it out, okay? All right, let's just solo the telly. Okay. Yeah, so let's go over to the chorus. See? It's a more likely mild, overdriven sound instead of a heavily saturated. But this gives a lot more of the clarity. It gives a lot more of that, you know, single coils bite mixed in with the humbucker. Let me just play the chorus for you so you guys will listen, can hear what I mean, okay? You can hear the telly? Ring! Let's just solo the guitars alone so that you can sort of hear what I mean, okay? So this is just the distortion guitars alone. Okay? And then I'll turn on the tellies, okay? Ring! Yeah, okay. So this really helped with the overall two things actually. The definition of the chord, all right, because the telly being a single coil is much more, has a little bit more clarity than the humbucker of the main guitar, and being a little bit more higher frequency, right? You know, a little bit brighter, a little bit more characteristic of a single coil. It actually helps to make the guitar appear a little bit wider, a little bit bigger. And again, that's a goal that we want, okay? All right, especially when we get to the chorus lah. So let's do what we need to do. Okay, let me just quickly kind of go through this first. Let's put in, once again, all of the tape and console emulations. Now, one thing I want to show, let's check this out, okay? This is actually, all right, on the telly track. Let's listen to this, okay? This is Overloud, the THU, the Slate edition. So this one is actually a clean guitar sound, right? With a tremolo. You might be thinking like, hey, metal song, man, why you have a clean sound in it? Okay, so the reason why this is in there is just to kind of give a bit of a pulsing, a little bit of motion to the guitar, right? Because the main guitars is pretty much playing a power chord all the way, right? Same goes with the telly, but just introducing slight little bit of modulation here. In this case, the tremolo adds a little bit of interest to the guitar tone, right? Otherwise, it's a little bit, you know, two-dimensional. So this gives a bit of a 3D, a bit of a pulsing effect going on. Again, super subtle. Maybe I'll bring it up a little bit more. Let's check it out and see lah. Okay, but let's continue. Let's put on the right. Okay, and let's do a quick link. Let's link all of these guys together so it's easier to balance. Okay, just check it out. All right. Right, there you can hear it. All right, so it helps, right? Bye. All right, very cool, right? So let's just check the chorus. All right, okay. Nothing much. I honestly think that nothing much needs to be done. Just a little bit of high pass. All right, so now let's skip all these. All right, so now we got the main rhythm section done. Okay. Now I'm going to skip the solo. I'm going to skip all the synths and everything, and jump straight towards the vocal. Now, this is very important because I always will tend to approach the vocal very early on. My advice, right, especially if you're new to mixing, one of the main challenges, and pretty much always a challenge that always comes up, especially if you are newer to mixing, is that they always struggle with, oh, how can I get my vocal to sit? How can I get my vocal to be present, right? To be, level wise, to be consistent, to sit in the mix, so to speak. Easiest tip, which right, I would advise you to do is bring in the vocal in the mix early on, very very early. Okay, so what I will do is that once I have the main rhythm parts in, straight away let's work on the vocal already. Okay, and this means just the drums, bass, main rhythm guitar, this little tele guitar which fills in the texture, and that's it. Right, we'll move on straight into the vocal. Leave all of these later, the solos, all the keyboards, and mix them up afterwards. Okay, so this ensures that your vocal is going to be up front, and everything else, your mix decisions are going to be there to support the vocal. Okay, so I suggest trying this approach out, right? So I'm going to skip all of these and go straight into vocal. So now the vocalist's name is Shakti. All right, yes, all right. So let's check it out and see. All right. Awesome. Okay, right. So hang on a second. Let me grab some water. Okay. Right. Okay. Let me just take a look at some of the stuff in the chat as well. Oh, Ram says, right, 217, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure working with Brother JD. Right, okay. Cool, man. And 217 also, well, rock on, okay? Okay, so let's talk about vocals. So, now, in all of the mixing and processing, right, we can very easily kind of categorize it into two different stages. Now, first of all, let me take away the auto tune. We don't need it anymore. It's rock, man. So don't need auto tune. Okay. So I would divide all processing into kind of two stages, and the first stage I would call it the corrective processing. Right, so that comes first. Corrective processing is here to, I would describe it as you're trying to, clean up. It is where you kind of clean up, you remove and you get rid of all the ugly parts, the parts that you don't want. Okay, so that's the first half of processing. Then you follow it up with the creative processing. So creative processing is, as the name implies, this is where you get creative lah, right? You get creative with, you know, playing around with the tone, the texture, adding the effects and stuff like that, right? And now it's not a clear black and white line the way you transition between the two. There is a little bit of gray area between both lah. So let's go straight to it. Now, so the corrective process when it comes to vocals, I will start first of all with this little preset that I have here. This is pretty much my corrective vocal chain. So it starts off with TDR Nova. TDR Nova here, this is a parallel dynamic equalizer. Now, what's a parallel dynamic EQ? You might be wondering. Parallel dynamic EQ, right? Very, very simply speaking, it's a frequency-specific compressor. Okay, I know you might be confusing, but later on when you see it in action, right, you know what I mean lah. Basically, this means that I can dial in so that this EQ, right, so that the compressor works only around a certain bandwidth or range of frequencies. Okay. You'll see what I mean, okay? So it can act like a normal EQ, like everyone knows. Like you can boost, cut, adjust the Q, your bandwidth, and all of that. So choose adjust the sender frequency. But the dynamic EQ section is what makes this very, very powerful, okay? By the way, it's free. The links to most of these plugins, right, are all in the description below, so you can check it out. So that's the first thing. So let's solo the vocal first of all. Let's put it in a loop.
எனக்குள்ள ஏதோ மாயங்கள் எரிகின்ற தீயாய் கோபங்கள் விழுகின்ற நொடியே வந்தாலும் சண்டையிட துடிக்கும் முரட்டு குணம்.
Okay, first things first, high pass filter. Let's set it to 12 dB per octave. Just want to get rid of some of the a bit of the low frequency subsonic stuff, right? Okay, here we go.
எனக்குள்ள ஏதோ மாயங்கள் எரிகின்ற தீயாய் கோபங்கள் விழுகின்ற நொடியே வந்தாலும் சண்டையிட துடிக்கும் முரட்டு குணம் உறங்காத இரவுகள் நீளுதை அடங்காத மனமோ சீருதை உடம்பெல்லாம்.
And that's it, okay? Right, so now Shakti, the vocalist, is singing it pretty high towards the higher range of the register, and of course, you're right, aggressive, very, very strong. So the tendency that of almost every singer or every vocalist, especially if you're being energetic, right, you will get a little bit of that presence harshness. Now, yes, right, it does sound a little bit more present. There is the brightness there, but there can be a little bit of that harshness. So we want to just sort of keep that and just smooth it out a little bit. Okay, so this is where TDR Nova is going to be very, very handy. So let's listen out for where that is. Right, so it's a pretty high up there. I suspect it's around the 4K region. So let's select this band. Let's engage the band solo. Now, okay, right, if you're listening to this on headphones, right, it might be a little bit loud, okay, right? By the way, I do suggest if you're watching this, do listen to this on a good set of earphones or headphones, or if you have, if you can sit in front of a pair of monitor speakers, that's even better, okay? If you're listening to this only on a mobile device, there are a lot of stuff that you are not going to pick up because the smartphone is not going to be able to reproduce those frequencies, right? So anyway, now, so actually there's two, right? There's the typical 4K one, but there's also one little sharp peak here at about 6.3K, okay? So this is where the dynamic EQ, and I'll show you. Let's zero the gain back down. Let's take the band solo out. And then to engage the dynamic EQ mode, just click on threshold. So split or wideband, I'm going to go for wideband, right? Because I want the same settings to apply for all three bands later on. It keeps things simple as well. Ratio, let's go for 3.3 Yes, 3-to-1 ratio. Attack, I want it to be the fastest, right? Because immediately when the problem frequency crops up, I want it to act in right away as fast as possible. And release, I also want it to be the fastest, okay? Right, fastest attack, fastest release. Because when the frequency doesn't become a problem anymore, I want TDR Nova to release it and let it go lah, okay? So here we go. Let's just dial it in. So I'll bring this down to threshold. It's like a compressor, except that it's tuned into this specific frequency, okay?
எனக்குள்ள ஏதோ மாயங்கள் எரிகின்ற தீயாய் கோபங்கள் விழுகின்ற நொடியே வந்தாலும் சண்டையிட துடிக்கும் முரட்டு குணம்.
Alright, that's very cool. So it has tamed down that 6K around that region. So there's the other one.
உறங்காத இரவுகள் நீளுதே அடங்காத மனமோ சீருதே உடம்பெல்லாம் ரணமாய்.
Okay, right, at about 4.2K, okay? So this one, same thing. Let's go with, right? Change it to wideband. See immediately with the wideband settings, right? They share all the same settings lah. This one, let's bring the threshold down. I will probably bring the Q to be a little bit wider, right?
ஆய் போனாலும் கேளாமல் முரண்டு பிடிக்கும் நெஞ்சம்.
Let's go back to the start.
எனக்குள்ள ஏதோ மாயங்கள்.
Okay, wider Q.
எரிகின்ற தீயாய் கோபங்கள் விழுகின்ற நொடியே வந்தாலும் சண்டையிட துடிக்கும் முரட்டு குணம்.
Let's have a slightly slower release.
நம் உறங்காத இரவுகள் நீளுதே அடங்காத மனமோ சீருதே.
Okay, let's bypass.
எனக்குள்ள ஏதோ மாயங்கள் எரிகின்ற தீயாய் கோபங்கள் விழுகின்ற நொடியே வந்தாலும்.
Yeah, okay, right. So it doesn't 100% get rid of it, but it helps to smoothen it out a little bit lah. Now you don't want to really totally eliminate all those, because that's actually the characteristics of the voice. And if you obviously if you take out too much of 4K, 5K, 6K, that region, you're taking away the presence. Okay, so in the end you end up a vocal that's dull, that doesn't cut through, and that's not what you want. You just want to smoothen it out a little bit, okay? All right, so that's the first thing. Second thing is, right, here we go. Same thing, the virtual tape machine and virtual mix rack. Now, except there is one thing that's a little bit different. Here, instead of 1073, I have the Hollywood. This is a virtual tube preamp. So with vocals, I would want to run to more of a tube preamp, right? In this case, just to give it a little bit more of the bite lah, okay? And the next thing here, you can see, this is FG Stress. This is Slate Digital's model of the empirical lapse distressor. What I have this set on, this is actually a parallel processing. So parallel processing, right? Parallel compression in this matter. I'm using this compressor. What it does is that it takes a signal, it splits it into two. So one is the uncompressed, the original signal, and the other one, right? Then the other signal is run to the compressor, and usually, right, really aggressive, high compression ratio, and later on you take a look and see, okay, right? I probably get gain reduction, pretty much gain reduction, so very heavily compressed, and then you blend the two together, right? Depending on whatever proportion you want to mix, like 50-50 or so and so. Now I usually go with 50-50 as a starting point. So let's take a look at how much compression is being applied, okay? 12 dB, 14 dB. So that's pretty much a lot. But parallel processing, I love parallel processing in vocals because it maintains the transparency, it gives the energy of the compression, but it still maintains the dynamics because it's not 100% the compressed signal. You are mixing with the uncompressed signal as well, okay? So it's really great, right? My favorite tool, all right, when it comes to vocals. Now, the next thing that I have here in the corrective side, this is sibilance. This is from Waves. This is a de-esser, okay? So this one is just to have a little bit of de-essing.
விழுகின்ற நொடியே வந்தாலும் சண்டையிட துடிக்கும் முரட்டு குணம்
So especially on more of the S's, okay?
உறங்காத
So that's pretty much it. Now the next thing I have here, this is RCOM. This is the Waves Renaissance compressor. So what this compressor here is just doing something very mild. I just want to catch the very loudest peaks, okay?
எனக்குள்ள ஏதோ மாயங்கள்
And how much is it doing? 0.8 of gain reduction. Not more than 1 dB, okay? That's all it's doing, okay? Just a tiny bit. Okay, so that is the corrective side, okay? Then where does it all go? So this goes into this guy here. It goes into the lead vocal group, okay? Where there will be a little bit more processing there, okay? So let's check it out. All right, let me just double check the blend. Okay, very cool. Okay, again, it looks like I already have some processing kind of going on, but let me just kind of bypass this. First of all, let me show you what I'm going to do right now. So first thing, so that was previously there was what all the corrective aspects of things. So now we're going to go into the creative processing when it comes to vocals. So here, this is where we took out all the ugliness, all the rough spots, the rough edges. We've already polished that up. Now we can take that and take it to the next level, right? And manipulate it even further. First things first is 1176A, right? The universal audio version. And let's check it out and see, okay? What was I doing? Okay, let's drive this a little bit harder. Alright, okay, I'm liking it, okay? So this is, again, adding a little bit more excitement, a little bit more energy to the track, okay? To the vocal. So, now, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Now, actually, before the 1176, I actually have this, the Pultec EQ. And after I've dialed in the compressor, now I will dial in the EQ, okay? Because what I want to do in here is it's going to react a little bit differently. Now I'm going to be pushing some of these frequencies into the compressor. It will slightly change how the compressor reacts, right? But overall, right, I'm using it more for the tone. Okay, so let's check it out. A little bit over the bottom. Just get a bit of bottom to. Okay, let's go with the widest bandwidth, broad bandwidth.
உறங்காத இரவுகள் நீளுதை அடங்காத மனமோ சீருதை உடம்பெல்லாம் ரணமாய் போனாலும் கேளாமல் முரண்டு பிடிக்கும் நெஞ்சம்
Let's go with 8K. Okay, now attenuation, let's put to 20. Now I want to attenuate a little bit because these are rock vocals, right? So just maybe take off the very top just a little bit, okay? Check it out. Okay, very cool. So what is happening right now is that, okay, let's see, okay, this one, now I have also another instance of TDR Nova. So this is in case, Because what happens when you run through all the compressor and everything, sometimes it will re-accentuate a lot of things such as your transients, the sibilance, and all of that. It's just a natural byproduct lah. When you run it, you apply a lot of aggressive compression. So sometimes another TDI Nova is needed, and this is where another de-esser is needed. Okay, so this is just to dial in a little bit, okay, because compressor brings out all the all the transients and the sibilance. This one will be a second de-esser in the group just to tame it down. All right. Sweet, okay, all right. So next thing we have vocal rider. So early on we see with the bass, we have the bass rider. So vocal rider has the same thing as well. And the way it works is similar. Let's just say you set the range, you set the speed, right? In this case, slow. We don't want it to be too fast because I don't want to use it too fast. Otherwise, right, the vocal level jumps a lot. So this is just again to be something very, very gentle and smooth. Okay, set the target. There we go, okay? So, that's pretty much, right, the EQ and the compression. Later on, right, I may add on a little bit more. So, what's next, okay? So, next thing, let's add a bit of effects, okay? First thing first, I would like to kind of place the vocal into a... we want to place it inside maybe a nice, expensive sounding room. So, what I do is I use Super Tap, okay? Okay. Edit effect. So super tap, this is actually a delay now, but what I've set it to is that I have set it to a very, very short delay with no feedback at all, because all I want is just one single reflection, right? One little delay echo without repeated echoes, okay? Another important thing as well, this EQ section, I have a low pass at 1.5K. That means, right, it rolls off at about 1.5K lah. So all the highs and all the super high mids are all rolled off. So you want it to sound as if it's inside a nice expensive studio room without bright reflections. Okay, so this is going to be dialed in. Okay, first I'll just exaggerate it so you guys can hear it. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, let me just check and see. Why is the super tap not engaged? Huh? Okay, no. Hopefully this time it will. Okay, let's check it out. Super tap is supposed to go to FX, right? Yes, it does. So that's correct. Okay, so now let's take a listen. This will be a little bit with too much of it. Okay, let's check it out. And hello, super tap, where are you? Okay, why are you being shy?
துடிக்கும் முரட்டு குணம் உறங்காத இரவுகள் நீளுதை அடங்காத மனமோ சீருதை உடம்பெல்லாம் ரணமாய் போனாலும் கேளாமல் முரண்டு பிடிக்கும் நெஞ்சம்.
Okay, right, you can probably hear it, right? So now this is a bit too much, so let's dial it back down.
ரத்தம் கொதிக்குதே இன்னும் அச்சம் துறப்பதே.
So it has a bit of space, right? So the vocal now has a bit of space surrounding it instead of just dry, okay? Right? Okay, again, we want to add a bit of 3D-ness to it lah. So next thing that we are going to add in here is a little bit of delay. Right, this will be a mono delay. Let me just check and see why is the routing not behaving. Okay, now it's behaving properly. Okay, so I have this mono delay. So this mono delay is going to give it a bit of the front to back. Okay, front to back space. So instead of using reverbs, which I will later on, I'll add a bit of reverb. But delays are very, very useful in place of reverbs because it does one thing that reverb doesn't do. It gives space without pushing the vocal backward. So that's why you see, right, we always employ delays in mixing. So because if you put a reverb will always wash things out. Yes, it will make it sound bigger, make it a little bit wetter, but it tends to always bury and push the vocal further back in the mix. A delay doesn't do that. So that's where delay is very, very a favorite instead of a reverb in this case. So this is just going to give it a bit of front to back, okay? And
எனக்குள்ள ஏதோ மாயங்கள் எரிகின்ற தீயாய் கோபங்கள் விழுகி.
So this is the Brainworks delay, okay? So this is being set to 8th notes. Tempo, of course, is 155, which is pretty fast, so that's why, right, 8 notes is sufficient, okay? Otherwise, sometimes if you're working the slower tempo, you may want to dial it to 16 notes, okay? So mono delay, super simple, nothing fancy, just to give it a bit of front to back. Okay, very cool. All right. Now, next thing I will add, okay, is just to give it, again, give the vocals a little bit more thickness, a little bit more width. Okay, I will be using the doubler, okay. So, in this case, I am going to use just a preset, doubler EQ'd, because what I want here is just pretty much the highs and the top end, the high, mid, and the top end. I don't want all the bottom end. So this is going to be, it's going to give a little bit of width, a little bit of chorusing, a little bit of air to the vocal. Okay, so again, solo it. Let's listen to how it sounds. Let me exaggerate a little bit. Right, see, yeah. So this is where, you see, this is a little bit too much. Again, I'm exaggerating it so that you can hear. So what we want is just to hear a little bit of that width, just to make that vocal sound slightly bigger than what it originally is. Okay, so let's listen in context. Alright, very, very, very cool. Okay, now, I want to show you something. Like so, that's pretty much first verse, second verse, right? Same structure, so don't have to listen to that. Let's jump into the chorus, okay? So, now, in mixing, one of the goals, not just in mixing, in the overall song production, is you want to capture the attention of the listener. So how do you do that, right? How do you capture the attention of the listener? One of the easiest ways is by constantly not having the music static. If the music always stays at the same level, it always stays at the same energy level, pretty much it stays flat like that all the way throughout. That's why a listener will tune out. So, right, this is where songwriting, even from your melody, your lyrics, the choice of chords, your music arrangements, what kind of parts do you introduce in, the goal of it is to always try to push the listener forward, to always anticipate what's coming next, and that's what makes a listener want to keep on listening to a song, instead of tuning in and dialing out. So we do that in many ways. One of the ways that we do is, of course, right, when we get to the chorus, right, you can always add a little bit more interest to it. So one way, like say for example in the drums, right? The drums change a different pattern, right? The chords go into more of, instead of playing the riff, goes into a more sustain power chord, all right, to drive it, all right, to give the vocal space. And then likewise, all right, when it comes to the vocals, all right, we double track here. So very common trick, just to make the vocal a little bit bigger, right, is to double it, okay? So let's listen first of all to this double track vocal, and let's just blend it in. So these are essentially, right, just get the singer to repeat exactly the same thing and just sing it again lah, right? So hey, I've already dialed this in already, so super simple. Let's just EQ it a little bit. Let me turn off the vocals first so I can EQ it. Now with the double, right, I'll usually take out a lot of bottom end. Take out some of the top end. And same thing, let's ease out those frequencies that we had problematic earlier, okay? But this time, right, with doubles, you don't really need the dynamic EQ lah. Just use your normal EQ will do. Yep, so all about 4K. Let's scoop that out a little bit. Right, this might be a bit. Okay, a little bit of pokiness at some frequencies. Yeah, at about 850, this frequency kind of jumps out a little bit. Alright, okay, so that's it. Let's copy the settings over to the other one. So now both are about at 50, halfway, 50%. And what we're going to do is we're going to blend these guys in. Okay, let's just blend it in. Chorus. Now, all right, so I'm blending it just a little bit so you can hear it a little bit wider, a little bit fatter. I'm not trying to make it sound apparent like it's been double tracked, okay? Because if you start to do that, if you bring the doubles a little bit harder, a little bit higher, then you start hearing, oh, obviously it's been, you get 3 tracks. You get the main, center, then you get the left, and you get the right double. Now, depending on the style of song, that might be appropriate, okay? But with more of a rock, right? For a rock band, you have the rock singer, you have that solo frontman up front and center, right? If you put your doubles a little bit too much up, it starts sounding like a boy band. You don't want that, okay? Right? So just blend a little bit into it. Okay, cool. So let me show you now one more thing here, and now I've actually kind of done it during the recording session already. Is let's pay attention, okay? Let me engage the automation. So see, every time we get into the chorus, right, I actually engage a stereo delay. Take a look here. All right, so this is the same plugin, except that this is now set to quarter notes, okay? So it is a much more, it's a slower tempo and also a wider delay, all right? So this is stereo because I've set the offset, all right? And let's check it out, all right? How it sounds. So every time coming up from the chorus, coming from the pre-chorus and the verses, it's all mono. Then choruses. Okay, now I'm actually going to accentuate it a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is let me turn off this offset and, all right, unlink everything. And I'm going to change the note time value on the right hand side. I'm going to go to dotted, okay? This is going to accentuate the stereo delays even further. Now, but one thing I got to do is that I have to play around with the feedback. I probably increase this to about 40%. So the reason is because now I'll play it very quickly for you, so you listen to it, okay? And then I'll stop it. Okay, and hello, where is it? Okay, let's give it a little bit more. Okay. And hello, stereo delay. Why are you not engaging? Okay, one more time. There you go. Okay, very cool. Right? So you see, now it's accentuated a little bit more. There's obviously a little bit too much. But the reason why the feedback value is different is because with the faster, with the shorter delay time, I increase the feedback so that the delays, right, on the left hand side are going to stretch on for roughly the same duration as the right, okay? Because with the slower delay time, you set the same feedback. Obviously, the slower delay time is going to end later, you see. So it'll be weird to have the delay going on and then it always seems to trail off towards the right. So I don't want that. I want them to trail off equally, okay? So that's why we have to bring the feedback level of this up, while this one you can keep it down, okay? So let's blend it in. Okay, that was a bit too much. Let's check it out. Okay, very important as usual. Listen to how set these effect levels in context with everything playing. Oh, right, okay, right. So that works. So again, that's building more dynamics in the chorus lah. Okay. So now I feel like I gotta give a bit more bite to the vocals. So let me just EQ this a little bit, okay? Awesome. Okay. Now, okay, here we go. Now, next, let me just play around. Let's add in the little guitar fill that's coming after the first verse. Right, okay, so set and don't forget. So now, with everything back in, it feels like I need to tweak a little bit of the drums as well. So mixing is not a linear process. It's not something that you start from the start and then you go to the end. You will jump back and forth here and there everywhere from different stages, okay? So let's... Alright, okay, so needs a little bit of automation. Now, jumping back again to the vocal. Chorus needs to go up a bit. One more time. 2, 3, 4. So about 1 dB, okay, just to give a little bit more excitement. So right, so back to the bridge, back down. same thing. Da da da. Right. Okay. Here we go. Let's automate this. Now, all of this that you see right now, these are all pretty much the wide, broad strokes of the mix. Later on, okay, there's actually a lot more fine tuning, fine detail, all the automation work, right? Sometimes I'll go into the vocal and automate it word by word, syllable by syllable, just to make sure that the vocals stay even and stay on top of the entire mix. Now, I won't be showing that because if we were to do that, if we were to sit through that process, we're gonna be here until sahur lah, okay, right? Until 4 a.m. doing this, okay? Usually I will do that, right, after I finish up the very, very first draft, okay, which takes us to the end of the show, the end of the live stream, and then later on, take a break, okay? We'll take a little break. It's very important, right, if you are mixing, if you're recording, to always take frequent ear breaks because it's very, very easy for your ears to get fatigued and saturated. If you're listening to the same thing over and over again, you're listening to the same frequency, the same sounds, your ear gets saturated, it gets fatigued, you get to a point where you can't differentiate, you can't tell the difference anymore because you're hearing the same thing over and over again. So this is where taking breaks are important, okay? So let me go grab my tea over here. And hey, all right, this looks like a lot of folks are here, all right. And Ram mentioned OD200. Oh yes, I remember the OD200. Yeah, I was thinking, was it 20 or 200, right? Super cool pedal, very, very versatile, because it really helped us, I think, to dial in various two different sounds, right? Multiple sounds. And Lucas, hi, how you doing, Lucas? Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing good. Okay, so Lucas has a question here. He says, what if the chorus vox has harmonies? Greetings from Puchong. Okay, it's good to see you, Ren. Right. Lucas, have you ever been on MixStream? Because I know that I've seen you on the AMAs, the live Q&A sessions, and right. What if the chorus vox has harmonies? Okay, so what if it has harmonies? Well, I think if you go back on a lot of my previous episodes, you see that there are plenty of songs that the chorus vocals have harmonies. What exactly do you mean? So, likewise, I think the approach is the same, right? I will also apply similar types of delays, but harmonies, if it's a BV, right? If it's a backing vocal, that means it's a different, it's an actual harmony, not a double, right? Yes, in this case, I usually put it on a different group, a different bus, okay? And we do have a little bit of harmonies here, right? Very, very minimal, okay? And you see lah, right? I send this to a different group, a totally different bus altogether. Okay, let me show you, see here, the BV. Let me just drag this down so it's easier to see. Okay, there we go, right? So doubles, because I arrange them according to function. The doubles, right, are going to be routed to the lead vocal group here. You see it's color coded as well. So the doubles, all that is being routed to the lead vocal bus because they fulfill the same function. They perform the same function. So I can send them to the same group, run them to the same processing. But it's different anyway because, like I mentioned earlier, like for the main lead vocal, I have all of this, right? The to really fine tune the main vocal. With the doubles, right? It's a lot simpler. Just use the stock EQ, right? I usually take off, of course, a lot more bottom end, and some of the top end because you don't need all that top end to be there lah. Okay, let's right. Hopefully that answers the question, Lucas. Right? Hopefully. Okay. So let's see. All right. Okay. Let's move on to something else. Right. Let's jump back very quickly to the bass. Now, another trick. Again, I'm talking about dynamics once again, right? So, In the chorus, yep, we change the dynamics. You know, there's more vocal parts. There are more. Sometimes you have additional guitar parts. You have the tele guitar part, which is, you know, playing the more strummy, right? The long strums. Now, all this is adding energy more in towards the mid range and the top. But what about the bottom? What about the low end? Let's not forget, okay? So we don't want dynamically our mix to expand upwards, right, with all the mid and the treble and the highs, but neglect the bottom as well. So let's not forget the bottom. And the way to do this is super simple. Okay, let's go back to the bass group here. Okay, and what's gonna happen is that I'm just gonna automate a very gentle 1 dB low shelf. Okay, let me just activate this so you can see. All right, activate. Okay, so it's a 1 dB shelf at 100 hertz. Now, there are different types of curves, all right, that you can select. For me, this is the one. So this is a super gentle shelf. What we're going to do is every time we get into the chorus, you can guess it, this is going to be automated. Okay, so let's go to the chorus. Let's engage right automation. Hey, second pre-chorus, going in the chorus. And ready. 3, 4. And that's it, okay? So this just kicks in that 1 dB of low shelf in the bass when you get into the chorus, right? So not only is the mix kind of going dynamically upwards, right, brighter, but your bottom as well, the weight is there. Okay, now coming out of the, I would kind of leave this EQ on in the bridge only until it gets to the interlude. Right, so only when it comes back in here. Let's disengage the EQ. Right, some of this fine tuning, I may have to go back and do a little bit of editing in the verses for the bass later on, okay? Right, all this stuff I'm not going to show you right now because it'll take forever lah, okay? So let's go back to chorus again. So this same thing, let's draw it. There we go. Here we go. And this one, all the way to the end. Okay, right. I need want to do a little bit of automation here. Okay, with the tele part. Okay, right. Okay, right, okay. Because I want this to just have a little bit of a... Okay, again, super subtle, right? All it needs is just that 1 dB, right, over there. So let's do the same thing. Now to save time, actually no lah. Let's just do it right this way. Okay, chorus. So this might need maybe 2 dB. Let's just bump it up 2 dB and see. Yeah, maybe about 2 dB. Okay, this is the solo, yeah? So let's bring this back down to 0. Right, automation. Automation is your friend. Okay, very cool. Very, very nice. So let's drop in a little bit more. So there is this little double vocal that happens in the verses, just to, emphasize a little bit. So as you can see, this one I filtered out. A lot of bottom, a lot of top. So, right, it will be slightly, well, not exactly radio, but, you're having more of the mid-range. Okay, alright. So this is just going to sit underneath. Just to sit underneath that main vocal, okay? Again, we are not trying to make it sound like a vocal group, a boy band. You want to, in the context of a rock band, you have to be that one singer, okay, in front. Okay, now, what do we have then? Okay, so this little clean guitar, it sounds like it's raining. Anyway, right. Is it raining where you guys are right now? Let me know, man. So let's go back to this clean guitar, which I think I also have something dialed in already. So let's take a look. Let's take a listen. Yep, I did. So maybe let me just break this down for you so you guys can take a listen to what it is. So this was just a clean plucking part. Okay, same thing, right? Running through the same amp. Okay, let's put in once again the tape and console emulations. Now, and as usual, there is the DI track, but have a listen to what I did to the DI. Okay, have a listen. This is the DI track. This is actually up an octave. This is really pitch shifted up an octave, and running through the THU with a bit of chorus, a bit of effects. So this is like a very, very spacey one. So what I did here was, right, with this, the DI track, you can see transpose up 12 semitones. So you get the 1 octave higher. I could always go on 2 octaves higher, and let's see how it sounds. Like an almost kind of a shimmer effect, isn't it? Or 1 octave below, right? But then 1 octave below you can't hear it. So like 1 octave above is kind of just nice lah. Very nice. Okay, so this is all being sent to the clean guitar group. Let me just run through you what I have going on. This is the LA3A. LA3A is fantastic on electric guitars, okay? Especially clean guitars. Super simple, no complicated controls, just how much gain peak reduction you want, and that's it. Alright, that's all. Okay, let's see what's it doing. Let's see what is this guy doing here, okay? Just a couple of dB. Yeah. 1, 2 dB. The most. Very, very gentle. And what's next? This is the magic switch. So magic switch is a chorus switch from, it's kind of a chorus from Baby Audio. So let me turn it off. So this is without, okay? Boring. Magic switch. Voila! This makes everything bigger all of a sudden. Of course you can mix it. No controls, it's just an on and off switch. So what's next? To give it a bit more space, this is Baby Come Back. This is a delay also from Baby Audio. Now, this is not to give an exact, not to really give a delay, so to speak. Again, this is just to give space and width to it. And lastly but not least, another effect. This is Little Plate from Sound Toys. This is a reverb, just to give it that lushness lah. Okay. So let's bypass. Let's listen in context. Okay, here we go. Okay, now, probably need to EQ it a little bit just to give it a bit more presence here. That's all it needs, alright? Just a little bit at 2.5K. Alright. Now, time to blend in a little bit of the synths, man. Let's check this guy out. This is the new drone. Yeah. Okay. So what I've had here, I just have a high pass at 40. Let's blend this in. That big size. Alright, very, very cool. Time to move on to... This would not be rock without a solo, man. So here we go, okay? Now, this was recorded again with a mic and also the DI, but in the end we decided to just go with the DI track because this is running through the slate overloud. But okay, let's go through the same thing again. Let me just plug in the virtual tape machines just to put in a little bit of the analog flavor. Virtual mix rack. Let's by default it always pulls all this stuff up. Alright, okay, actually there's a preset you can do lah, but never mind. Alright, I don't do this that often to warrant it. And where is my FG73? So here we go, virtual drive at about 50. Okay, let's check out the solo. Alright. So this is like, no, it's one of the presets that comes with it. This is basically, you can look at the logo, and if you know your guitars, this is basically an angle ampler, all right? Angle, all right? Let me bring this down because I want to, actually no, let's just leave it here. And I want to sort of chuck in MV2. MV2 is great on a lot of stuff. Not only did I use it on bass early on just now, but it's also very good on even plucked guitars. Because, for example, if your plucking guitar is uneven, now if you use a compressor, you know, it will, in order to get maybe your softer notes to be heard, it will apply gain reduction on the loud ones, which is not exactly what you want because it will sound too compressed. MV2 on the other hand is different, okay? It's got the low level compression that will bring out all the low level detail. So instead of reducing the transients, it doesn't touch the transient, it just accentuates all the low level details. So with the same principle behind it, this is where it's very, very good as well for solos and leads, right? It will bring out all the low level stuff, your pick attack, you know, your small little articulations. It makes all the articulations a lot clearer as well. So let's just check it out, all right? You know, it makes the attack of each note a little clearer also, because all the low level detail, all right, is being accentuated. Okay, now of course we have to compensate and the output, so to make sure that we're listening at equal volume. Okay, at about 2.5 lah. Okay, compensate, make sure that we're listening at the same volume. Sweet, awesome. Okay, now just a little bit of the TDR Nova, maybe just a little bit to again. Actually, no, let's not go with it. What I want to do is maybe just again take off a little bit of that edge from the lead guitar. It bugs me a little bit, but again, I have to listen in context with the whole song, see whether it is or not. But let's just do something with it first of all. Okay. And what I would do, this is with Plugin Alliance, this is called Refinement. So, alright, so Refinement is, how do I describe it? They call it harshness control. So it is a combination of a kind of a filter, but also with some modulation. So it's not exactly, right, it's not exactly an EQ lah. So let's check it out. So if I apply more damping, see, obviously, right? Listen in context with the mix, very important. So it really rounds it off a little bit nicer. So you still the note still cuts through, but at least it's slightly rounder. You know, not so harsh. Now, having said that, I feel like I need to add something, and this would be just a tiny touch of API here, right? Just for the mid range to poke through a little bit. 1.5, maybe about. Okay, very, very subtle, just to give it a bit of a nose lah, okay, right? Just have the nose of it pick out, jump out a little bit. Alright, okay. And let's see, alright. Oh, Lucas was saying about, oh, it's for the stereo delay techniques, okay. Oh yeah, even for that, I actually will use the exact same effect send, right? And send my BBs and harmonies to that stereo delay. That's it. Right now, again, depending on how much separation do I need, how much space, I may put a reverb, additional reverb on the harmonies. Again, it depends. There's no right or wrong. Again, there's no fixed formula to adhere to lah. Right? Okay, so let's see. Lucas says that first time here on the MixStream. Loving the content so far. Thank you, man. Thank you very, very much. Okay, right. If you're watching this, folks, anybody who's watching this right now or later in the replay, okay, if you're not a subscriber, please do head on down and do subscribe to the channel, okay? Right, and Lucas says, probably gonna rain soon. Seems cloudy at the moment, okay? Now, I have no idea. I'm gonna rely on you guys to give me the weather report, okay? Because inside the studio in here, I have no idea, okay? Now, and I don't even know whether it rains unless it is like super, super heavy lah. Then I can hear a little bit of it. It feels like it's raining. I'll check it out later and see, okay? Anyway, so there we go. All right, a little bit of refinement just to soothe it a little bit. And now, on the solo, I love to use this. All right, I would add a little bit of this. This is called the Acorn Digital Multiply and Vintage Lead. This is actually again another chorus doubling plugin. You could do the same thing with just now Waves Doubler. You could use similar thing with the Magic Switch from Baby Audio. Just that this one in particular, I like to use this for guitar solos. So, all right, this one, like, let's just hear it. See, like a chorus effect. But let's not too much of it. I just want a little bit of widening, because otherwise you might end up sounding too, Van Halen 80s lah. Okay. In context, listen in context. Okay, very cool. So let us add. Okay, now for a little bit of. Where is it? For a little bit of digital delay, right? Just to spread out the guitars. Let's look for it. Where is it? Where is my Cooper Time Cube? Cooper Time Cube. There you go. Cooper Time Cube. All right. So let's pan hard left right. Sync on. Let's go with delay time. Quarter notes on one side, quarter note triplets on the other side. Let's check it out. Radical, dude. Okay, so let's yeah, so see, with the two different tempos, I have to play around with the decay time. Listen in context, okay? Awesome, right? Alright, okay. So there we go. That's the guitar solo. So this is automated here a little bit so that every time. Okay, let's pan this a little bit to the right. Okay, alright, this might be a little bit too much, so maybe 1 dB. Okay, same thing. So then when it kicks back to the solo, it should center back again. Let's check out the solo first of all, okay? A little bit less of the delay. All right, okay. Awesome solo, man. Okay, so we might need to automate a little bit of stuff, right? Especially some of these drones, right? I need to turn this down. There we go, okay? So it's adding that. Here we go. Let me just blend it in. Well, it's minus 16. Alright, very cool. Okay, let's blend in some of the other stuff. We have a couple of pads here. Let's check this one out. Okay, let's check out the second pad. Pad 2. Okay, once again, I want to take out maybe the extreme bottom end. Blend this in. Okay. So you got to be very careful with all these kind of pads because they all add a lot of sub energy, which can eat into the headroom of the mix. Okay, and before I go in further, now let me just jump very quickly back into the stereo bus, because at this stage is where I will kind of tweak around with the stereo bus a little bit now. So early on, I showed you. Right, first of all, the first plugin that I have, okay, again, I'm not going to go into detail about the entire template and what the plugins do, right? That's in another video on the channel, all right, the Cubase project template. But basically, the air EQ is just giving a tiny air boost at the top. Now, wave C4 here is to make sure that no particular frequency range jumps out too much. So just gonna, right, what I'm gonna do is just dial the threshold back so until you see the gain reduction, the meter here just dance ever so slightly, right? That's it. That's it. Just very tiny, okay? Right, very tiny bit. Okay, so now let's go with the virtual bus compressor. Now, the way I've set all these three up is that they're all in series, right, with kind of the way that I already like it, okay? Now, what I will want to do is that I'm going to have all of these only work very gently, about 1 dB of gain reduction the most. In digital, I find this a lot more pleasing, at least to me, right? Instead of just using one master bus compressor and having that one work very hard. So each of these are going to be working not more than 1 dB. So in the end, the total, right, the compression that's happening, okay, all right, each one works very gently only lah. Okay, so let's go with set here. I'm going to dial in the threshold. Not much. So the FG gray, which is SSL, not more than 1 dB. Same goes FG red, which is the Focusrite. And lastly, the FG mu, which is, right, it's like a variable mu, either the Fairchild. So this is all three of them, all right? And then if I take off the compression, right, the master bus compressors, you see everything just collapses and just falls apart, man. Yeah. Okay, no doubt there is a little bit of coloration introduced by especially the variable mu, but somehow without it the whole mix just falls apart lah. Okay, there are a couple of other things inside here as well. Inside the virtual mix rack, again the lift series EQ, just a tiny touch of presence, very tiny EQ at the bottom. Revival is not being used. Bomber, right? This is again one of those mysterious, right? The wonder boxes that just does amazing things to your mix. Okay, trimmer is not doing anything. And lastly, this virtual mix bus. So remember, so we have the virtual tape, we have the virtual console, we also have this on the virtual mix bus. Okay, so this is at the end. So again, simulating the signal flow as if I'm going through a USB API console. Now, I'm gonna chuck in a few more other stuff. Usually I will put this in later, but this is the right time, right? Because I got the overall mix done already. And this is where I'm gonna put in the SPL iron, right? It's gone become one of my favorite, right, compressors. What I would do, this will be the MS setting, right? I'm going for the great thing is that this can go in MS mode. This does very subtle. It's again very subtle. With MS mode, it helps me to gives a bit more separation, makes the mix a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. But I gotta be careful with it, not to apply too much. Let me switch off all the gain boosts, bring this back down to compensate, and this is gonna be super subtle. Oh, there's nothing subtle about it, man. It's just suddenly becomes bigger. And again, you're not talking about not a lot of gain reduction, just barely touching. And this is actually at parallel at 50% of the mix. So if you want it to be a little bit more obvious, I will drive it, a bit more. You can also play around with a lot of stuff such as the mono maker. You can also play around with the stereo width if I want, but usually I don't touch lah. All right, let's leave the stereo width the way it is. Last but not least, right, let me just drop this in. This is the API 560. This is a trick which I learned from a mastering engineer. Just insert this, it makes it better, okay? Not doing anything, no EQ, no whatever, just run through the circuitry of the API 560. And that's all it's gonna do. All right, so let's continue to go on to where are we next? This is... So this is going into the next chorus. This is pad 3. Let's check it out. Now with this pad, I may want to just give it a bit more space. And how are we going to do it? Let's go with Isotope Spatial Panner Ozone Imager. And it's got this cool feature called Stereoize. And let's see how wide can we make it. Ooh, okay. So I just want to push it a little bit wider from the speakers, right? I don't mind having these kind of pads going slightly wider, okay? Right? Although in solo, it can give a bit of motion sickness, headness, it gives me a bit of headache because it's so out of phase. But again, in context in the mix, it works fine. Nice, very, very nice, okay? Let's see, what are we next? This is smooth strings. Let's check out smooth strings. Okay, so it's like a nice little string pad. more of a string pad lah, right? It just to add again more weight to that. Okay, now this is an interesting bass synth, right? Yeah, almost pretty much of like a sine wave 808 kind of a thing. Okay, but let's give this a little bit of flavor, okay? And how we do it is with the 1073, you can also actually drive it. Let's give it a bit of harmonics. Okay. See, actually, this is actually a stereo kind of a bass that you can hear the motion moving around. You know? But this is just going to add a bit of harmonic. So otherwise, it's just a plain kind of a sub bass. So this really brings out, you know, some of the upper harmonics. So let's blend it in. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute the guitars for a second. It adds an extra dimension to the bass. Okay, now I'm going to actually solo the two just to check the relationship between the two, right? And how I do that is I'm going to check the phase relationship. Make sure that they're not fighting each other at the bottom end. It's good to check. Let's do this. It's very subtle, but I kind of preferred having the polarity on the synth bass inverted. To me, it gives a little bit more, keeps both of them slightly better separated. It's very hard to explain, all right? But it's a very subtle difference between the two. So let's go with it, all right? There we go. Okay, let's move on to, in fact, let's move on to treat these little BVs first. Okay. Okay, all right. So these BVs, actually what they're doing is, it's more like as if there's a kind of a, more like a little chant. Okay, let's listen to it, all right? Let me solo it. That's it, all right? So I'll show you what I meant. Lucas, I think you asked just now earlier about BVs, okay? So BVs, I send them to a different group, right? Because it serves a different function, right? Totally different function. So this is why it's going to be sent and processed differently lah. So first of all, let's go with the, let me just solo this first, okay? Solo. Let me take out some of the effects. Let's just dry it up first. Okay, now, so there's a bit of resonance. 2.8K, right? Let's saturate it a little bit with on the preamp saturation. Okay, let's copy this over. Okay, alright, so let's hard pan it. So this is more of a chant. So let's again. So in this case, I put a reverb, but I could always, right? As I showed you earlier, I could always go with the stereo delay. It's the same one. It's the exact stereo delay that I use for the vocal because no point in setting up so many different effects. If it's the same thing, just bust it to the same effect, okay? There you go. All right, that's the delay. Let's bring the... Same thing, so it goes here. Might be a bit, let me dial it back down a little bit. So that's it, right? Right. It's more of a chant, not really technically a BV or a harmony in this context, right? Because for these guys, for this band, more of a hard rock. They're going for more of a hard rock sound. So no harmonies of that sort, because harmonies will sweeten things. It makes things a little sweet. So we want to go for something that's a little bit raw, right? So that's why there's no harmonies in here. So let's take a look. This is a growl. Let's check it out. So this is simple. Let's blend this in. Remix. Let's take a bit. Let's bring some of the bottom end back in. There we go. All right. Super straightforward, I would say. Okay. So what are we missing? What are we missing left? Okay, a couple more things. Some other pads that are coming into the... let's go with the synths first. Now, this is in the... Okay, right. So this synth is kind of playing this little melody. So let's take out all the bottom end. Let's check out what is synth 2 doing. Hello, what's synth 2 doing? Oh, why is it so quiet, huh? That's very interesting. Oh, it seems to be super soft volume level. So let's just bring it up and see. Okay, all right. It's weirding me out. Why am I not hearing it? Oh, there you go. Okay, so it's more of like a little air pad lah. All right, okay. That freaked me out a little bit, okay, just now. So synth 1. Now this one will need a little bit of to even it out. So let's go with FG stress, de-stressor. Let's go with the opto release. Let's play around with it. Alright, okay, at least this has evened out some of the notes. Okay, here we go. Okay, alright, so now let's add this one at the bottom, just give you more definition. Let's take out the bottom end. Very nice, okay, right, so that gives a little bit of harmony and counterpoint as well. Staccato strings, check it out, staccato string. Alright, this is like staccato violins, these ones will be. So this is about an octave lower. So these will all go to, now these are strings, right? Strings, I will send them to a string group. And let me just label it very quickly first and then bring it down here so that you can see it. Strings. Folks, let's see, what time is it now? So it's coming up to 12. So, all right, we are pretty much there. Okay, now strings. Now, so that's the staccato part, but there's a little section in here as well. Let's check it out. Alright, okay. Right, so I know what to do. So with strings, I have this little preset which I always use. Right? Mix strings. Basically it's the same except a couple of things, right? I keep my drive as low as possible to be as clean as possible for strings. And I have this Wave C4 stereo set to a upward compressor, which is actually an expander lah. Right? So this is to help to bring out all the articulation, all the lower level detail stuff, right? Okay. Take some of the super top end. Don't need some of that. There we go. All right. So let's blend this in. Okay, now. So let's go. So when it gets to the solo needs to be pumped up a little bit. And probably automated a lot more later on, but again, these are details which the fine-tuning stuff, I always do it later. I won't really show you doing this point in time. Okay, we have this pad 4 that goes in the bridge. Again, gotta be very careful with this bottom end, so let's take out everything about 55 and below. Again, this feels like we can saturate this a little bit, so let's use the FG73 to saturate. Yeah, just to give it a little bit of that distortion. Helps to bring out the upper harmonics. can, around that 1K range. Let's EQ it a little bit. Okay, right. Let me just try and listen to something. Okay, where's the bass synth? Very cool. We are almost there, man. The last bit, this would be synth 3. Let's see what it does though. Ooh, this is a nice distorted synth, man. Oh, this is going to be really, really interesting. Okay, so I'm just going to sit it there and blend it in there for now. Okay, right, cool. I feel that, you know, this is pretty much, I'm pretty happy with where I've gotten so far. This is where I would say, as explained earlier, these are pretty much the broad strokes. First of all, right? Establish the rhythm section, the drums, the bass, the rhythm guitars. Make sure that the main vocal sits in front. Then only blend in all the other stuff that comes in, the supporting parts, right? That come in, right? So I would say this is about 80 to about maybe 90%. So there's lots of stuff later on, right, that to help to take it to that final 10%, right? That final 10-15% to get to the finished product will be all the automation work, you know, where things need to be automated, panned, you know, little minute details with levels need to be played around with. And this is probably a good time to, you know, take a little ear break as well in terms of, you know, fatigue, right? Coming up to about 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours of doing this. So now I want to very quickly take a quick switch over to another pair of speakers, right? Because I have got a couple of monitors here. I have my big 8-inch Kelly LP8s, but during mixing, especially during this stage, I will usually switch over to the NS10s, right, to check the balance on this. So I'll do this very quickly. Right. Obviously, you guys can't see it, but I have to turn on the power amp, which is down here. And with the delicate adjustment of volume with my toes, let me just have a quick listen to how it sounds on the NS10s, okay? Right. Just listen to maybe... Yep. So it gives me a shift of perspective. Listening from big speakers, then to small speakers.
எனக்குள்ள ஏதோ எரிகின்ற
EQ a little bit on the kick.
போர்க்களங்கள் தினமும் கண்டாலும் சாகாமல் பிழைத்து கிடக்கும் நெஞ்சம் ரத்தம் கொதிக்குதே இன்னும் மச்சம் துறப்பதே வீரம் அடிமே
Sweet, okay, right. So pretty much I'm happy the way it sounds, alright, on the big speakers and also the small speakers. So now almost I guess this is pretty much close to the finish, but let me just check and see what else is going on there in there. Right, okay. So Lucas is saying that is one sinister solo, man, right there. And hi, who's there? Poovin. Okay. Welcome, man. I love your keyboard work, right? Poovin is the keyboardist from the band. Thanks for jumping in the live stream. We're pretty much almost near the end, but let me just run through, okay, the all the chat that's going on in here. It's a thanks, brother. Okay, awesome, okay. All right. And Reuben as well. Hey, awesome. Thanks for jumping in onto the live stream. Right, Reuben is the drummer as well. Reuben says that looking at all the tools and tech used in this session, I'm pretty convinced that whoever can do mix mastering will be able to fly a jet plane too. Oh, no. That's an interesting comment, but trust me, I know friends who are pilots, okay, and the level of training and detail, right? It's nowhere near the complexity and the seriousness of the training, okay, of flying a plane. Look, in audio engineering and mixing and mastering, you make a mistake, no one dies, okay? So that's why we can't compare. Anyway, cool, right? Thanks guys for joining in, jumping in. So all right, yeah, cool. We go. Right. Oh, okay. Ram has now given the report that yes, it's starting to rain. Okay. Anyway, so now before I wrap it up, I want to show you one more thing. Okay, again, to talk about building dynamics. So there are different tricks. Songwriting, right? In songwriting, we use dynamics because in the chorus, we usually go into a high register, use different notes, longer notes, for example, to give a more dramatic effect. In your music arrangement, right, we change drum patterns in the chorus. We add some parts, we add higher parts, we add harmonies to make the chorus bigger. And I showed you as well some of the mixing stuff, right? Adding stereo delays in the chorus. Switching from a mono delay in the verse, then stereo delays in the chorus. Just automating the bass, giving a little bit more a slight bottom end bump in the chorus to make it add a little bit more weight. In fact, the synths, right, all the bass synths that has been added here by Poovin also helps dynamically as well, right? So synths really can play a big role in adding dynamics. So one last thing, and this is a pretty common trick, right? And super simple trick that you can use just to enhance a bit of dynamics is just to automate the master volume. And here's what I mean, right? So whenever we're going to kick into the chorus, I'm just going to bump up the stereo master volume up by just 1 dB. Very subtle. This is a psychoacoustic phenomenon. Our ears are automatically drawn towards something that's louder. When we hear something louder, we immediately feel, oh, it sounds more exciting. Oh, it sounds better, see? So we take advantage of this psychoacoustic phenomenon, right? And trick the ear into thinking that the chorus is bigger, okay? So this is all in the name of creating excitement, creating dynamics, pushing the listener forward, pulling them towards the next section, making them want to keep on listening to the song, okay? So here we go. Right, this is coming out of the pre-chorus into the chorus. Let's arm this first of all. So this is the stereo master. Get ready. Okay, ready. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, okay, let's bypass that. So let's take a look. Alright. Make sure that it's armed. So see? So this one bar here, we just bump up the master volume by 1 dB. Some folks go for 1.5, but to me 1.5 sounds too obvious that someone turned the volume up. So 1 dB is subtle enough lah. So let's listen, yeah? Alright, then I'll keep it here. So we're still up here. Then when it goes into the interlude, the first solo, that's where we bring it back down, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Very, very subtle. So this one might be a little bit shorter, just across 2 beats. But we bring it back down to the initial level. And you can guess right what we're gonna do. Same thing when we get here. After the solo. Right, okay. This one may be a little bit earlier at bar 131. Okay, and okay, very cool. One last thing, I forgot. Now, you should be able to hear this only. Now I have to turn on the big speakers for this because this is a bass drop that we added. Okay, this is a sample of a bass drop that we added here for dramatic, cinematic effect. Well, if you gotta hear this either on really good speakers or full range speakers, or like monitoring headphones. Then you'll be able to hear it. So just dial this in. This is gonna be a bass drop. Ooh, ow, ooh. Let's solo that so you can hear that. Now on a mobile phone, there's no way you will hear that, okay? On a speakerphone. You gotta really appreciate and listen and appreciate the sub bass drop, right? on the full range speaker. Or a big club or a system or a concert PA, that's gonna be really bottom shaking the earth, man, okay? Right. There you go. Alright, so that pretty much brings us to the conclusion of MixStream, man, of this episode of MixStream. So, right, I've took you through the mixing stage of the rhythm section, right? Some automation tricks. What's the corrective processing when it comes to vocals, the creative processing that comes along with it. Talking about some building dynamics, how song arrangement really helps with the overall mix as well. So, we will take maybe one listen through. Usually what will happen after this is that I'll take a break, either a couple of hours, can come back and revisit again, or sometimes the next day, next morning when our ears are fresh, I come back and we work and then tweak all the finer details, all the automation stuff and all that. So once this is done, right, usually what I do, the process is we usually get in touch with the band, right, and nowadays because of COVID we do a lot of things remotely, but in the past, right, and I still prefer to do it, is that I usually get the band in here in the studio and we do a listening session. So we sit down, we listen to it, the band will give me give me their feedback. What do they like about it? What they don't like about it? Sometimes it could be just some simple things that as just playing around with the volume balance. Oh, just need the vocal to be just a tiny touch louder here, there. Maybe this part we need to adjust. So that's where the listening session takes place. Then we'll make changes, we'll fine tune as we go along, right? Hopefully not more than 1 or 2 sessions. And then after that, it's finalized, ready to be mastered and released out to the world, okay? So, it's coming up to slightly over 12 midnight, okay? So, awesome. Now for, let's see, right? So everyone who jumped in earlier on, okay, right? Ram, right? Lucas, right? Poovin and Reuben also, right? Thank you for jumping in so much. Really appreciate that you took the time on a Friday night to join and tune into this episode of MixStream. Okay, right. So before we take the last listen, so once again, if you found what you watched in this video useful and informative, maybe you're watching this on a replay later on, right? Please do leave a like. Do share this with your friends, okay? Right? This is meant to be a sneak peek as well behind the song for Namaslay's debut single. Hopefully, right, this will kind of whet everyone's appetite, give them a little bit of a taste of what their debut single is gonna sound like, okay? And hey, if anybody of you out there now, if you are not a subscriber yet, please do click on the subscribe button. That will really, really help the channel out, okay? Super, super awesome. And once again, if you want to help support, first of all, the YouTube channel, but not only that, you want to also support the featured artists. Now, sign up to become a patron, right? The website is up there, patreon.com/2105. So 50% of your contribution or your subscription, right, is gonna go to the featured artist, lah, right? Make sure you mention, right, with the code MixStream25, okay? So, thank you again so much for watching. I really hope you found this session useful and informative, and gives you sheds a little bit of light on the mixing process behind, your favorite songs that you listen to, okay? Right, so to wrap it up, we'll take a quick listen through the entire song, right? And before signing off, right, you guys out there, stay safe, take care, right? Take care of your personal hygiene, wash your hands, everything, practice the social distancing, all right? Be careful. I hope to see all of you in person really, really, really soon, okay? All right, so here we go. This is the first draft of the mix for Namaslay's debut single titled Phoenix, okay? Enjoy. Let's take a listen.
எனக்குள்ள ஏதோ மாயங்கள் எரிகின்ற தீயாய் கோபங்கள் விழுகின்ற நொடியே வந்தாலும் சண்டையிட துடிக்கும் முரட்டு குணம் உறங்காத இரவுகள் நீளுதே அடங்காத மனமோ சீருதே உடம்பெல்லாம் ரணமாய் போனாலும் கேளாமல் முரண்டு பிடிக்கும் நெஞ்சும் ரத்தம் கொதிக்குதே இன்னும் மச்சம் துறப்பதே வீரம் விடுகின்ற காலை சூரியன் என் வலிமை சீண்டி பார்த்திடும் கடக்கின்ற சாலை எங்கேயும் என் கால்கள் தடைகள் உடைக்கும் தினம் இரும்பாலை இதயம் மாறதே நரம்புக்குள் வேகம் ஏறுதே போர்க்களங்கள் தினமும் கண்டாலும் சாகாமல் பிழைத்து கிடக்கும் நெஞ்சும் ரத்தம் கொதிக்குதே இன்னும் மச்சம் துறப்பதே வீரம்
Going into the chorus.
அடிமேல் அடி வைத்தேனே என் எந்த சிறகும் முளைத்து பறக்கும் வீசாய் துணிவே வாழ்வின் வீரம் என் குருதி மழையில் நனைந்து காயம் மாறும் உன்னை நீ அறிந்திடு அவன் வரை எல்லை நீ கடந்திடு
Going into the interlude. Awesome. probably need to add a bit more reverb to the toms. Cool. Alright, that's it, man. Okay, folks. Alright, thank you so much for tuning in. Alright, good night. See you again real soon in another video in the future.